Hello everyone and welcome to the Bot Tools where automation meets the actions. In our interview preparation series, this is the very first video and it's just the beginning. Many more videos are coming on your way where we will cover the both theory based questions and also the real world scenario questions you might face in the interviews. Okay, so if you are not already, hit the subscribe and the press the bell icon so you don't miss any updates in the future. So with this, let's get started. So in this today's video, we are going to discuss about the questions that are revolving around the RE framework. That is the main focus area about the interviewer at the start of the interview. So we are going to cover all those questions. I just gathered around 20 questions for RE framework. So this is going to a big video. That's why I divide into three parts. So it will like make it simple and the shorter, so it will be easy to understand. So there will be the three parts videos. Okay, so first part we are going to cover the some basics questions, after that some mid-level, and in the third after that we are going to cover some advanced level question. With this, let's get started for our best to mid-level questions. I gathered these 6 questions as a start, so I have total 20 questions around. So from that I have taken first these 6 questions which are as to as like beginner to mid-level when you start the giving the interviews, right? So there is first questions comes like, do you know about the RE framework? What do you understand about the RE framework from the interviewer? After that, how many workflows are there? How many states are there? How many global variables are there? After that, there is next question comes from like, what is the config file in the RE framework? And after that they will ask about the config file, right? So where are the credentials stored? Like credential assets names are stored, right? So like it is an assets file, they will confuse you in asset file or setting in the concerns, right? So with this, let's quickly start from our first question. So first question is, what do you understand about the RE framework, or the how the RE framework is built, right? So here you this expectation from the interview is that you will answer in a such a way that okay, the RE framework is a pre-built UiPath template based on a state machines, right? So it is RE framework is overall state based on the state machine, right? So it is a first point to be captured as an interviewer. Okay, it's designed to build scalable maintainable RPS solutions, right? And it is used for the transactional based processes, right? Okay, that is another second point to be captured. Okay, transactional based processes. And after that there are certain key points. Okay, so you can mention like it has a pre-built exception handling mechanism. The system and business expression is handles, right? As a pre-built, you can see this is a business and the system exception it handle as a pre-built. It has a retry mechanism, you know, like we know about the max retry number, max consecutive system exceptions, right? That we set in the config file that we are going to check, see over the next upcoming questions. Okay, in detail. So this is the like max retry number, max consecutive system exceptions. So these are the retry mechanisms that are built or like to reducing the manual processing, right? So another key point is like it is customizable. Like we can add the new states here, anywhere we can add the new states, we can delete the states, we can connect the one state to another with multiple transitions, right? With the multiple conditions, so we can modify this RE framework, entire RE framework. So another key point is that like it has a config driven approach. Okay, so that means like it can handle the transactions, or we can say, or the inputs are in the dynamic way from the config file, right? We are mentioning entire details in the config file, not in the not the hard coding, right? So it take the dynamically all the values. Okay, so overall you can mention first of all the very short intro to the RE framework. Okay, and after that you can add the 3 points like it has a pre-built exception handling mechanism, it has a well retry mechanisms, it is a customizable, it has a config driven approach, so dynamically all the values are handled. Okay, and after that you can mention like this process is used as a start of the mid to complex level process which operates on the transactional level, right? So we can use this RE framework. So these points are sufficient for the intro to the RE framework, like what do you understand about the RE framework. Let's move to the second question, that is like how many workflows are available in RE framework, right? So like if you go to the into the project sections, if you go to the framework at the left side, right, so you can able to see these are the 9 workflows are available. Okay, like close all application, get transaction data, init all application, init all setting, kill all process, retry current transaction, set transaction status, and the text screenshots. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how you can remember these things. Okay, so in the RE framework we have the 4 states, right? So in these 4 states, this like in the various steps, these 9 workflows are ignored. Okay, so in the initializations you can remember in a way that, okay, we have the init all settings, okay, where we are calling the config file, we are reading the config file, right? After that there is one other workflow, that is the init all application. You can see here init all application. So these 2 workflows are in init. Okay, after that there is a get transaction data, right? In the get transaction data we are just calling the invoke get transaction data workflow, right? So you can remember in get we have the get transaction data. In the process we have the invoke process workflow, right? There we are calling the process workflow. After that we are calling the set transaction status, right? And in the set transaction status we are calling the retry current transaction. Okay, you can see here, I'm just showing you. Okay, retry current transaction. Okay, so how many workflows are there in the process? So there are total 3 workflows are there. First is the process, and after that is like set transaction status, and after that retry current transaction status. Oh sorry, actually I missed about text screenshot. So text screenshot is also in the set transaction status. Okay, I will show you there, this one. Just wait. Here, try taking screenshot. Okay, so this is a text screenshot. Okay, and after that only 2 like in the end only 2 processes are remaining that are invoked. Okay, that is close all applications, and after that is the kill all process. Okay, so these are the total 9 workflows. Okay, 2 in the initialization, 1 in the gate, 3 are done. After that 4 are in the process transaction status, that is the process set transaction status. In set transaction status there are 2, that is the text screenshot, and after that retry current transactions, and in the end there are 2, that is close and the kill process. So let's move to another question. How many global variables are present in RE framework? Okay, so there are total 11 global variables. How you can see, you can just go to the variable panels. Okay, and you can check out here. So there are total 11 global variables are there. Okay, they will ask about the data types also, like about the cross questions. So mostly asked are the transaction item. What is the data type for the transaction item, right? So transaction item is the data type is a queue item, right? So we are using the get transaction item activity, right? Its output is the queue item. After that the config file, they will ask about the what is the data type for the config file. So you can mention like it is a dictionary of system.string and the system.object. Okay, that is sufficient. And try to remember this 11 names: system exception, business exception, transaction number, config file, retry number, transaction field 1, transaction field 2, transaction ID, DT transaction data, and consecutive system exception. Okay, let's move to the next question, that is how many states are in RE framework and explain it. Okay, so here you can just mention in the RE framework there are total 4 states: initialization, get transaction data, process transaction, and the end process. Okay, so interview is expected that you will give the answer each and every states in short way. Okay, you don't need to go under like in very depth. So how you can answer? So you can answer in such a way that in initializations we are reading the configure file. After that we are like like initializing all the application that are needed for the process. Okay, and if there is a system exception during this process, the process go to the end state, and if it is a success, the process go to the success state. Okay, that is the get transaction data. So in the get transaction data we are just calling the transaction items from the queues one by one by using the get transaction item activity. So if there is any failure during this calling, or if there is no data, the process go to the end state by saying that there is a no data left. Okay, for the system exception also it going to the instead by saying there is a no data. Why? Actually in the get transaction data, if you see, right, there is a try catch block. Okay, in the try catch there is a system exception. Here we are logging the system exception, but here we are assigning transaction item as nothing. Okay, due to that, processor will go to the end state. Here the logic is this: transaction item is nothing. Okay, if there is no any system exception happens and there is a data, it will consider as a new transaction and process will move to the process transaction state. That is the next state. Okay, so in process transaction, right, we will first like call our logic for the handling the business workflow, right? So after executing the business logic, if business logic went success, okay, after that it will execute the get transaction data. In case of any business exception, it is going to execute the get transaction data. And if there is any system exception, right, so the process will go to the initialization state. Okay, so in that way you can mention. I hope you understood, and let's go to the next question. What is the config file in RE framework? Okay, so let me open the config file first, then, and where you can find the config file, right, you can just open your project folder. In that you can find the data and there is the config file. Let me open this. You can answer in a short way, like we are using the config file to store all the values that are going to be used in the RE framework, right, or the variable values or argument values at the start, right, or any conditions like in the constants you can see retire number, max consecutive system exception. So that kind of things. And in the assets we are calling the asset, right, from the orchestrators. So you can store the assets name here to call it dynamically, so we don't need to make any changes going in the future. We can directly make in the config file, or we can replace the new config file and it will be called in the directly called in the RE framework. So we don't need to go in the projects, open the projects and make the changes. So there will be cross question that where we are storing the credentials name. Okay, so you will like quickly answer, okay, we are storing the credential name in the settings files. So they will cross questions quickly like why you are not storing in the settings or the assets, right? Because the credential we are storing in the asset in the orchestrators, and you should call in the asset, right? So you can just ask in such a way that okay, we are just calling the assets separately in the initialization workflow. I will show you first, okay, then I will like how you can answer. I will just give this idea. If you come to the init all settings workflow, okay, you can see this workflow, try initializing assets. So here we are reading the asset sheet. After that you can see for each asset we are calling and get orchestrators we are using. Okay, so we are directly reading the assets here. Okay, whatever the assets types are there, that is string, integer or boolean, whatever it is. Okay, we are reading here and we are directly storing in the config file. But if you use the like store the credentials name here, so credentials are called in such a way. So let me quickly show you. Let's open this init all settings workflow here, and this is the workflow. So we can check, we are reading the asset sheet here. Okay, after reading the asset sheet, now we are just directly in the for each row we are just directly calling the get orchestrator asset activity. Okay, in this we are just directly reading the asset values and we are storing in the configuration file. But if you can check, if you use the credentials name and store this in the asset file, it can't read that one because the credential has the two outputs, right? First of all, we need to use the get credential activity here, and the second thing is it has a two outputs, that is username and the secure password. That's why we are not storing the credential in asset, we are storing in the settings file. Okay, and that settings file is read here. Okay, settings file we are reading here, and it is also going to store in the form of config name and the value. Okay, so I will give you idea how it is going to store our. Okay, just copy this credentials name, and suppose I need to call it in the process. I'll just go to the process Suppose I'm calling here, just giving an example, get credentials. So you can call here like just providing the config name. Okay, here you need to provide the orchestrator folder path. So which folder path we are using? We are using this q folder path. This is org folder. Okay, you can just mention here org folder dot toString. Okay, just copy this sentence, add here, and you can add your credentials name here. Okay, so in this way you can call the credentials whenever it is needed, and in the property just create the variable username and password. I'm going to provide this PDF to you guys. So there we have all the 6 questions we have covered today. These answers are there in this PDF, so that I'm going to upload over the drive. I will provide you the drive link. Refer this. In next video we are going to just cover over this some advanced questions here about the RE framework that are like over the mid level. Okay, thank you.